My name is Dr. Reverend Mogut Spago. I am from the Department of Veterinary Field Services. I am the Deputy Director in the department. We want to talk about tick-borne diseases, which are a major constraint to livestock production, in particular to cattle production. In Zimbabwe, tick-borne diseases account for about 67% of all cattle deaths each year, which is a very huge number or big problem in Zimbabwe. So tick-borne diseases are a problem in Zimbabwe. And when we talk about tick-borne diseases, we are talking about diseases that are spread by ticks. And in Zimbabwe, we have 4 major tick-borne diseases. And these include January disease, also called theileriosis, heart water, also called ehrlichiosis, red water, also called babesiosis, and the final one is gout sickness, also called anaplasmosis. These are the 4 common tick-borne diseases that we experience in Zimbabwe. Chief among them is January disease, which has been causing a lot of havoc in the livestock industry in the past 5 years. In Zimbabwe, in the past 5 years, we have lost over 500,000 cattle due to January disease. That's about 500,000 cattle that have died due to January disease. And we will talk more about this disease, how to recognize it, how we can prevent it, how to treat it in case our animals suffer from January disease. So January disease, it's a tick-borne disease of cattle that is transmitted by ticks, in particular the brown ear ticks. And it is a disease that affects the white blood cells of the animals. You know, it affects the soldiers of the animal's body, and it causes rapid death in the animals. So the disease, as we said, is called January disease. The name comes from the fact that the disease, we experience a lot of cases of the disease during the month of January, which is normally the month that we normally get a lot of rain in Zimbabwe. So the disease is common during the rainy season. This is November up to April, but in particular, mainly in January. That's where it got its name, January disease. How does the disease spread? As we highlighted, the disease is a tick-borne disease which is transmitted by ticks. And the ticks that transmit January disease are the brown ear ticks. These brown ear ticks, like the name suggests, they are brown in color and they are found normally in the ears of the animals. So this is their preferred feeding site, the inside of the ears. So these are the ticks that transmit the disease. And maybe on the transmission again, how does the disease spread? These ticks that we are talking about cannot move long distances from one district to another or from one province to another, but they can only move while they are on animals. So animals actually transport the ticks from one area to the other, which is why it is very important for us to make sure whenever we are moving animals from one region to another, from one district to another, that we make sure that they are tick-free or they are not tick-infested. When we started having the problem of January disease, which is in 2018, 2017, we only had 3 provinces that were affected, which are Mashonaland Central, Mashonaland East, and Mashonaland West. But because of illegal animal movements, because of movement of animals that were infested with ticks, we ended up having the problem in all of the 7 rural provinces of Zimbabwe, save for Matabeleland North. So this is a big problem, and we want to encourage farmers not to move tick-infested animals, because by moving them, we're actually moving the vectors of the disease, we're actually moving the disease itself. I would like also to talk a bit about the clinical signs. How can a farmer identify that his animal is being affected by January disease? Number 1, the animal, when it gets infected or when it gets bitten by a tick that is affected or that has the parasite, that causes January disease. It will take about 14 days, which is what we call the incubation period, for the signs to show. So what the farmer usually notices first is that the animal will have a fever, but this fever will manifest as depression. The animal will be depressed, the animal will be lagging behind when they are going to the pastures, or when they are lying down, this animal moves slowly. It is the last one to stand up. So these are the signs that the farmers quickly notices. Then it goes off feed, inappetence, it won't be eating, and then the disease starts to progress. Like we mentioned earlier, the disease is transmitted by the brown ear ticks. So one other thing that the farmers or that the livestock owners will see is swelling of the lymph nodes. So the lymph nodes that swell first are the lymph nodes that are behind the ears, because we said the ticks will be inside the ears, and the lymph nodes that are behind the ears and the lymph nodes that are in front of the shoulders, we'll show you through the demonstrations later, they get swollen. This is a sign that your animal has been affected by January disease. The disease then progresses further to cause labored breathing, which is normally caused because the lungs will be affected and there's a lot of water within the lungs, and then you see the animal having difficulty breathing. The animal adopts what we call a hanger posture, wherein the animal actually stretches extends the front legs and also extends the neck to try and grab in air. That's the air hanger posture. Then when the disease progresses, you also see lacrimation, which is excessive tearing. We also see salivation. We also see bloody diarrhea in the animal. Normally, when we start seeing bloody diarrhea, then we know that the animal, within 2 to 3 days, the animal will suddenly pass on. So those are the signs that we see in January disease. So normally we have a lot of farmers that complain about excessive tearing, cloudiness of the eye, because we see the eye turns cloudy, it turns white. That's again an effect or clinical signs of January disease. And the swelling of the lymph nodes, especially those behind the ear and in front of the shoulders. So those are the signs that the farmers see in animals that have died or that are suffering from January disease. In those that have died, normally farmers don't see any remarkable changes inside the animal's body, except within the lungs, where we see a lot of fluids within the lungs, which is why our animals normally have difficult breathing, because we have a lot of fluid in the lungs. And also we might see some blood within the intestines, which is why our animals also have bloody diarrhea during the terminal stages. Now that we have talked about the clinical signs, we would like to move on and talk about how we can treat the disease. This disease is a disease that rapidly progresses. It's a disease that can kill animals within a very short period of time. We are talking of within 3 to 5 days, the animal can die after showing this clinical sign. So it is of paramount importance that we quickly identify or recognize an animal that has been affected by January disease, and we institute the treatment as soon as possible, because late institution of treatment will not give desirable results. In terms of the treatment of the disease, we have about 4 drugs that we recommend for farmers to use. Number 1, we have a class of drugs that are called bupivacaines that are able to help us when our animals are suffering from January disease. So within this class of bupivacaines on the market, we have various trade names, which include Butalex, Butacam, Butacure. All these are within that class of bupivacaines. The second one is oxytetracyclines. These again very important in our treatment of January disease, and we have various trade names also on the markets. We have our Alamycin, 5-Ox, Hytet, Cupamycin. All these are actually oxytetracyclines that are important in the treatment of January disease. The third one that we normally recommend for farmers is furosemide, which is a diuretic, which means it is a drug that drains water from the body of the animal. So this one, it actually helps, as we mentioned, that when the animal is failing to breathe, it is because there's a lot of water in the lungs. So when we give furosemide, we actually help the animal relieve the labored breathing, the difficulty in breathing, because the water in the lungs will be drained out. So it is very important for us also to include the furosemide, the diuretics in our treatment protocol. It has also been seen that sometimes those affected animals, we can starve them of water, for 12 to 24 hours, the affected animals. This is shown to give good results. Again, it is believed that, when we starve them for water for some 12 to 24 hours, it again helps, we eliminate the fluid that is within the lungs that is causing the animal to have difficulty in breathing. Then the fourth drug that we recommend are vitamins or minerals. These are drugs that we give so that the animal, eats. They encourage animals to eat for the inappetence that we see. So these are the 4 drugs or classes of drugs that we recommend in the treatment of January disease. But we all know that prevention is better than cure. So I would like again now to dwell much or to explain much on the preventative measures that we can use, to prevent January disease. What we can do so that this disease does not affect our animals. The number one control or preventative measure that we can institute for January disease is cattle dipping. Cattle dipping is the main method for preventing January disease. So under that broad preventative measure, which is cattle dipping, we have various methods that we can use to dip our animals. We have the plunge dipping, wherein the animal actually, is immersed in the plunge dip, and then the whole body is immersed in the deep chemical, in the deep solution. We have the use of knapsacks, which we'll demonstrate later, which is, where we actually spray our animals. This method is a very good method, especially for farmers that have heads of less than 30. Once you have a head that is above 30, the use of knapsacks is not recommended because it becomes laborious and its effectiveness is actually compromised when we have heads of greater than 30. So once we have heads of greater than 30, we now recommend farmers to use the third method of dipping, which is actually another form of spraying, but this is actually a motorized way of spraying. The spray races, wherein we have the animals being sprayed, either by solar-powered or diesel-powered engines. That's the third method. And then the fourth, last method of dipping is that we can use pour-on solutions. These are just poured in on the midline of the animals and on the midline on top of the animals, and then they eventually spread throughout the body of the animals. So these are the 4 methods that we can use to prevent January disease under the broad control measure, which is cattle dipping. I would also like to touch on the use of injectables. There are some farmers that actually use injectables like ivermectins, but these have one big disadvantage. Our ivermectins, they only kill the blue ticks, the Rhipicephalus decolorators. That's the only tick that is destroyed or killed by the ivermectin. So it is a narrow spectrum deep chemical, which only manages to kill only one class of ticks. So we do not recommend that method. If we are using that method, it can only be used as a supplementary method, because it only kills one particular class or group of ticks. So those are the methods that we recommend farmers to use so that they can prevent their animals from contracting January disease. Secondly, the other method that we would like to talk of, or maybe to expand upon the dipping. So when we, in the communal setup, the government actually runs, a network of over 4,000 deep tanks. And when we are in the rainy season, it is recommended that farmers take their animals to the deep tanks so that they actually dip their animals once every week. So it is important to observe this frequency, once every week, because during the rainy season, we are saying there is a lot of tick activity and we have to dip our animals more frequently so that we can eliminate or kill the ticks. So that's another important point. Then we have also the use of tick grease, which is a very good supplement to the dipping program, wherein we actually apply tick grease to our animals in between dipping sessions. And this tick grease is applied at specific sites, specific tick feeding sites, which include the inside of the ear, the udder, under the tail, and at the end of the tail brush, where we find ticks hiding there. So these are the methods that we can use to prevent January disease. I think that actually concludes the preventative measures that we would like to highlight that we as farmers can use to prevent January disease. Tick grease is an important supplement to the dipping process. It can be applied as a spot application on our animals. It can be used to supplement the dipping process. So it is recommended to apply tick grease in between dipping sessions on the specific tick feeding sites. So our tick grease is to be used on the external areas only. So tick grease is applied on hairless areas because it sticks better where there are no hairs. So before application of tick grease, it is recommended to shave the area first so that the tick grease can be applied and it can stick better on the hairless areas. So the areas that we apply tick grease include the inside of the ears. This is the feeding site for the ticks that cause January disease, which are called the brown ear ticks. So it is important to apply tick grease in the inside of the ears so that we target the vectors or the ticks that cause January disease. So before application, we shave the area to remove the hairs. We apply tick grease with gloved hands, or we can use used bread plastics so that we protect our hands from the tick grease. Yes, we apply evenly inside the ears. We can also apply the tick grease on the base of the horns. This is where some ticks reside, or this is where they feed from. So we again apply evenly our tick grease at the base of the horns to target the ticks that are staying in that area. The other sites that we would like to apply tick grease is also in between the hooves. Again, this is an area where we find some ticks. The application of tick grease in between the hooves can be done using a stick that is covered by a cloth at the end so that you avoid getting injured by the animals. So you spread the tick grease in between the hooves to target the ticks. It is very important that when you are applying tick grease, your animal is properly restrained so that you avoid injuries, and so that you also are able to apply the tick grease properly. In female animals, we can also apply the tick grease on the udder area where we find also a lot of ticks in that area. Sometimes they will be causing abscesses on the udder and also causing mastitis. The other area where we apply tick grease is under the tail. The area under the tail is where we find some ticks hiding. It's a good hiding place for ticks. And when we are using spray races or knapsacks, this area can evade the chemical. So it is important to also apply tick grease under the tail and also on the tail brush. Before applying tick grease on the tail brush, we have to shave the area because, as we highlighted earlier, tick grease sticks better when the area is hairless. So we shave the tail brush. Again, on the tail brush, this is the area where we sometimes find the ticks that cause January disease. They will be hiding in the tail brush. So when we apply tick grease in this area, we are actually also helping to prevent our animals from contracting the deadly disease. It is important to note that the use of tick grease cannot replace the dipping program or the other dipping method, but should be used as a supplementary measure, as a supplementary method to our plunge dip, spraying and dipping. And tick grease can only be used as a supplementary dipping method. The signs of January disease in an affected animal include salivation. As you can see, the ropey saliva, and also we can see cloudiness of the eye, corneal opacity. And if this is not treated, the animal can turn blind. And also the animal will be producing a lot of tears. So you end up seeing excessive tearing in an animal that is affected by January disease. The other sign that we see in the head region is swelling of the lymph nodes behind the ears. Swelling of the lymph nodes behind the ears, which we call the parotid lymph nodes. These are the lymph nodes that swell first because they are draining the ears where we are having the brown ear ticks. So swelling of these lymph nodes is a sign, sure sign that an animal has been affected by January disease. We also have swelling of other superficial lymph nodes, which include the prescapular lymph nodes. These are the lymph nodes in front of the shoulders. As you can see there, that's where you can find the prescapular lymph nodes. These again will be swollen. And generally, because the disease causes accumulation of fluid inside the lungs, you see that our animal will be having difficulties in breathing. So you see signs of labored breathing. As you can see, this animal, it is having some difficult breathing or having difficulty in breathing. So these are some of the signs that we can see in an animal that is affected by January disease. In response to the outbreaks of theileriosis in the country, the government of Zimbabwe has instituted various control measures to try and bring the outbreak under control. Among the control measures that the government has instituted includes one, the presidential tick grease program, wherein distributing 1 kg of tick grease for free for all communal farmers. This tick grease, it can be used in between dipping sessions. The tick grease can also be used when our animals fail to go to the dip tank. We can actually use the tick grease. The second program that the government has instituted is the accelerated dip tank rehabilitation program, wherein the government is actually rehabilitating dip tanks across the country so that dipping can happen effectively. This is upon recognition that the national dipping infrastructure is key in the fight against January disease. The third intervention that government has instituted includes the launch of January disease war. This was launched on the 25th of January, wherein the government is actually declared war, and there was a national launch in Kadoma for the war against January disease, and subsequently there has been provincial launches of the war against January disease. In the war against January disease, part of the war chest includes intensive cattle dipping, where we are saying cattle are being dipped once every week, and in areas where we are having theileriosis or outbreaks of theileriosis, this frequency is being increased to 3 times in 2 weeks, which is following the 554-day dipping regime, which is actually intended to bring down or to bring under control January disease outbreaks. The second thing that the government is doing as part of the war against January disease are massive farmer awareness campaigns, wherein farmers are being educated on the importance of dipping, how to prevent January disease, how to limit its spread, and that has been a game changer. And since the launch of January disease war, we are now a month into the war. We have seen a drastic reduction in the cases of January disease. Now, just to touch on, this is what the government has done. Making sure there is adequate supply of acaricide to ensure weekly dipping. What now is left is for the farmers to do their part. What are the farmer obligations? Farmers are supposed to take their animals to the dip tank. Farmers are supposed to dip their animals. And it is important to note also that we actually have laws that govern the dipping of animals. Under the cattle cleansing regulations, it is a must. It is a requirement by law that we dip our animals, failure of which we can be prosecuted. So if your animals are not dipped, or if you don't take them to the dip tank, you are liable for prosecution. You can actually be prosecuted for not dipping your animals. Why is this law there? Because if we are in a community and we have some people that don't take their animals to the dip tank, that actually causes problems for others that are actually taking their animals to the dip tank. We had a problem in the yesteryears where people were actually thinking that the disease, January disease or tick-borne diseases, is contracted from the dip tank. But this is far from the truth. This is not true. The dip tank is where the solution is. The ticks are found in the pastures. So when our animals go to the pastures, that's when they get the ticks. When they get to the dip tank, that's where the ticks die. So we need everyone in the community to take their animals to the dip tank, where the ticks will be killed, and then that will clean our pastures and that will protect our animals from tick-borne diseases. So it is a requirement that we dip our animals. It is a requirement by law. The other requirement by law is that we only have to move our animals, when they have a veterinary import permit. In movement without a veterinary import permit will result, if you are caught, the animals will be destroyed without compensation. This is very serious because illegal movements have been a key driver in the spread of tick-borne diseases, have been a key driver for January disease. Because once we move tick-infested animals, we are moving the disease around and we are spreading it. So if you are caught moving animals that have ticks, if you are caught moving with animals that do not have a movement permit, your animals will be destroyed. So farmers have to take note and take heed of the warning.
The battle, the fight, the war against the January disease launched by Ministry of Land, Agriculture, Water, Fisheries and Rural Development last month at Venice Mine in Venice Deep Tank in Mashona and Central requires that we all take part so that the war or the battle is won. I am going to talk about some issues that we may result in us losing the battle against January disease, one of which is the product. We, as stakeholders, are empowered to manufacture products to control ticks. For us to win this battle, we need to use a product that is registered, that went through the processes required to register products. And when those products are used, we have to make sure that we follow instructions on the labels. Most of the labels are written. Read the label and understand carefully before you use the product. So it is important that we use the products according to manufacturers' recommendations. Again, we are having problems of fake products in the market that are flooding the market. Fake products of tick buster, fake products of Condratic, fake products of tick Tritix, which is manufactured by Coopers. They flood the market. When we use fake products, we will not get the desired result. The desired result is to kill the tick. The fake product will not kill the ticks. When we actually use some of these dip tanks, we have to follow instructions like most of the ticks, the dips we use to spray are oil-based. So there is a technique where we have to mix water and oil so that the active ingredient that kills the ticks is evenly distributed on the animal body in even particles so that we win the fight against this January disease. We encourage farmers to really buy products from reputable outlets. I will mention a few: farming city centers, veterinary distributor outlets, farm shop, Winpart, Shirezi Farmware. All these outlets are guaranteed that farmers will buy genuine products. When we buy fake, we may be attracted by the price, but cheap is not always cheap. When you buy fake, one, you are wasting your hard-earned cash. Two, you will not kill the ticks. And three, you risk the danger of losing your cattle. We also have interventions like a pour-on application. Again, the instructions on the label have to be followed so that when we use this product, definitely will kill the tick, which is what the problem, which is the spreader or the transmitter of the problem. We are happy to say that we have enough dipping chemicals to control the tick, because that is the main issue. Controlling is better than cure. We also advise our farmers to say, when you use this product, again I will repeat, follow the manufacturer's instructions on the label. We have different methods of controlling ticks, like I've described the hand spraying. We also have plant dipping. We also have a pour-on application and the tick grease application, which will be demonstrated shortly as we will proceed with our program. I thank you very much.
So, kana toita yatoti mompe management, sezvanga zvichimbodemonstratwa pa-tick grease. Tinoti tick grease is for strictly external use, which means that tichida kuzora for zvikwekwe, kana kuti zvatoti madare, kana kuti magupa, kana kuti zviri shambwe. Zvinowanikwa munzeve, pakati pemakumbo, muhapwa memombe, kuminyatso, pasi pemuswe, kupfuna nekumawande. So panapa ndakabata gaba re-tick grease inonzi bitter tick grease. So usually tino encourage varimi kuti tangai maverenga ma-instructions. Zvakakosha kuverenga because panogona kuitika mamwe ma-changes pa-label rema-instructions. Hazvinei nekuti wakamborishandisa before here kana kuti wagara uchirishandisa. Also kana une paunenge usinganzwisisi, zvakangokosha kufonera manufacturer, nhamba dzamanufacturer dzenziripo, and also to verify, because usually these days kwane ma-counterfeit products. So for tick grease, that is for external use against ticks. Those are external parasites. So ndorata tirinozorwa munzeve, muhapwa memombe, pakati pemakumbo nekumahwande. So for area yemahwande, you can use yatoti mogona kutora chidanda chamosungira chiwesi chimaton cloth kuavoida kuti usakuware paunozora pakati pemahwande paya. That's for tick grease. Tick grease roshandawo futi for maronda. It's also a wound remedy. So angava maronda ekuti dzatungana dziri kumafuro here, yatyokanyanga here, kana kuti yanga imbori nemamota, tinogona kuapply futi bitter tick grease. Hakusi kumombe chete, even kumbudzi nemakwai rinoshanda. Delta tick pour-on ndoyatoti todira pamusana. It's also for external use. So according to my instructions, tinoti 1 ml per 10 kg body weight. So we should know kuti mombe iyi kana ari sister kana queen anorema ma-kgs mangani. Like I can give an example, vamanogona kuti kana iri nechiapa mashona breed kuma 200 kgs. So kana iri 200 kgs, which means tichadonza 20 mils. 20 mils tinoita, this bottle actually it's a squeeze and pour on bottle. Pane kushandisa yatoti T-bar applicator. Nowadays kwane advanced technology yekuti such containers anogona kutoitika squeeze and pour on, like sezvamurutoona apa tichito demonstrator dzosvika 20 mils dziya. Then paku applyer, it's ear to ear, then from kubva kumusoro kusvika kutail kumuswe. That's for delta tick pour on. Tabva pa delta tick pour on toenda pa yatoti tick buster. Tick buster, this is a green label. So sezvandambotaura paipa kuti it's really important to read my instructions muchiso uyu ndonoti guide kuti chii chiri mukati umu. So for this one is 2 mils per 1 liter, which means that knapsack spray, kana tichibereka 16 liter knapsack spray, we should put about 32 mils. And the 32 mils we can use the syringe yakaita seish yatobaisa mombe, but to make sure kuti iyi ya syringe yekumadhibhu. Topima yedu 32 mils zvakanaka toisa knapsack spray. So pakudira first mixing tinoti pame muchidira, umwe achidira dhibha riri musyringe, umwe achidira mvura at the same time. Zvobatsira patoti particle distribution yeactive ingredients. So 2 mils per 1 liter, approximately mombe 1 toitarisira kuti igeze 2 to 3 liters ifanane nemombe yadhibha. That's for tick buster. Then kozouya yatoti purple label deep inonzi contra tick. Contra tick, this one now the difference is 1:1. It's 1 mil per 1 liter, but the mixing instructions are the same. So patofirita paya tichi sprayer, usually tinoti tangai from bottom ibva kusasi kumahwande muchikwidza kumusoro kuitira kuti mveredze noti tikatanga kudenga mveredze yadzinorara, so hapazokwanisi kuitika yatoti easy penetration ye-dipping chemical. So zvezvi zvakakosha kuti tange from bottom tichiuya kutop padumbu pasi pemuswe kwese tospray. Pane issue ye-storage as well. Mukaverenga according to the manufacturer's instructions, storage tinoti chengetedzai pasingapindi zuva uye pasingapindi vana vadiki, pasingakwanisi kusvika vana vadiki kana zvitokwanisa kuloka matochengetedza these chemicals. And also tisamixe panogara chikafu nema-chemicals akadai. And also disposal, once tapedza kushandisa mishonga yedu, tapedza kudhibhisa kana kuzora tick grease, tinokurudzira kuti mupise magaba, ivaine gomba ramochera, mopisa, ndoyatoti disposing ma-chemical containers. So for storage, tiri kuti chengetedzai pasingasviki vana, pasingasanganiswi futi nechikafu, uye pasingasviki zuva yatoti direct sunlight. And also imwe means of disposing the containers, munogona kubora yatoti perforation kuti risazokwanise kushandiswa futi kana kuti munopisa. Izvi tenchizviitira kuti pasazoitike ngozi. So disposing tinoti pisai, ivaine gomba ramochera mopisa kana kuti mogona kubora bora yatoti perforation pachirungu kuti risazokwanisa kushandiswa futi, kana kuti kana kuri kumamisha kana kuti kumaruwa tinokanda mablade toilets tisazowanikwe tichichengetedza mbeu kana kumashandisa. Ndo zvatoti zvakakoshera kuverenga manufacturers instructions. Okay, so there is knapsack spraying, which is another method of dipping. So usually these dipping chemicals or acaricides come in different forms. There are purple labels and also green labels. So it's really important kuti kana ari murimi atanga averenga ma-instruction amanufacturer kuti azive kuti dhibha iri acharipima sei. For example, ratinaro inonzi tick buster, it's 2 mils per 1 liter. So which means the 2 mils, the tick buster dzosanganisa 1 liter. So when you are doing knapsack spraying, it's also important to know kuti knapsack yedu yachabereka, it's how many liters, so that we can easily come up with the correct amount of dipping chemical yachapima. So for example, our knapsack sprayer, we are going to use a 15 liter knapsack spray. So which means that tichaisa 30 mils the tick buster. So before you use the dip, it's advisable to shake well before use kuti risangane deeper. Then itopima 30 mils zedu. And you should also check with the manufacturer. Usually panenge paine seal. If it's broken, it's advisable to return to the manufacturer. So the sequence now is when you are putting the dipping chemical, you should also pour water at the same time so that pagozovane inonzi equal particle distribution. So pavachadira dhibha istenchidira mvura at the same time. So tinodira kusvika takuona rakuzara pa the actual gauge, and you can also rinse your syringe. So we should make sure kuti syringe ratashandisa it will be strictly for the dipping chemicals, tisazosanganise nema injections. So tadayo, you would find out it will be easy to mix. So that's the first mixing. Tadira pamwechete dhibha nemvura. And these dipping chemicals inowanzoita a white froth kana kuti furore white. So tadayo takuita second mixing, which is kupomba knapsack kuti rinyatsosangana dhibha redu. Then once we are sure kuti ranyatsosangana tobereka knapsack spray yedu, we should make sure kuti mombe dzedu dziri well restricted kuti dzisazokwadze munhu anenge achishanda nadzo. So patospraya mombe, we should try and make sure kuti mombe yafanana neyadhibha, yanyatsonyorowa kufanana nemombe yadhibha. So we can just do 1-2 testing kuona kuti our knapsack spray iri kushanda here. So togona kutanga nekuma hooves, and also spraying, it should be from hooves tichienda upwards. Tabva kutsoka kumawande tichikwidza negumbo, tospraya padumbu. Kana dziri hadzi, usually kana tichispraya hadzi dzatokama mukaka, tomeka sure kuti tatanga takama tisati tadzifirita nedhibha kuavoid cross contamination. So usually it's upwards, tension against the fair mombe, so that rinyatsoita penetration iri easy, deeper pacharo. We can as well spray pasi pemuswe futi because kune zvikwekwe zvinokemba pasi pemuswe. Nepakati pemakumbo, muhapwa memombe, all over the body.
Pour-on dipping is one of the key methods of dipping which we can use in our kettle. We first read the manufacturer's instructions before we apply each chemical, as this may vary from one manufacturer to the other. So we have to adhere to whatever the manufacturer said. For this product, we have that's the debilitating pour-on. We apply 1 ml for every 10 kg body weight. The first thing we do is to estimate the weight of the animal. For the animal we have here, we estimate it's about 380 kgs, which means we are going to give him 38 meals. We can also use scales if they are available. We can also make use of the weigh band if we have we use the squeeze on bottle which have graduations with it, so that it is easy to apply on the animal. So you are first apply ear to ear. Then also from the ear to ear you run along until you reach the tail. Then you have to make sure the acaricide is well sprayed on the animal. You can make use of the race. Handling facilities are very crucial in this process, where you cannot apply the pour-on if you don't have improper handling facilities.
Pakuspreya mombe kana tichinge tichisana kana kuti tichida kuedza kuti tichinyatso spreya mombe dzedu zvatingati zvakakwana, yatinotara waiting yapa tinenge tichitarisirwa isusu kunge mombe ichitota zvakakwana muviri wese. Saka kuti tikwanise kubudirira pachinango chekuti titotese mombe muviri wese, mombe chipfuyo chisingafunge semafungiro atinoita vanhu. Saka takanotisa kuti mukuspreya kwatinenge tichida mombe dzedu matanga tichishandisa knapsack kunyanya, tine nguva yatisingakwanisi kuita thara waiting years, zvichiburikidza nekuti hatina, especially tikange tisina panobatirwa mombe pakanaka. Muchaona kuti nguva zhinji vanhu patinonge tichispreya nenapsack tisina pokubatira mombe pakanaka, tinoita tsika yekupinda mudanga munogara mombe tichidzingirirana nadzo. Dzimwe nguva semuenzaniso, zvikwekwe zvinonyanya kuti one day nguva yekunaya matanga edu zvakare anenge aine madhaga, Saka munhu paunopinda uchida kunospreya mombe unenge wakapfeka majombo, unenge uchitya kutungwa nemombe, unenge uchiremerwa kufamba mumadhaka. Saka zvinorijusa kana kudzikisa nguva yako yekuti unge uchishanda nemombe dzako kuti udzitotese zvakanaka. Uchapedzisira wadimburira panzira zvekungoti mombe yangonzi yaendwa netumvura tushoma tusingakwanise kuti dhibha risvike panenge pachifanira richisvika kuti ribvise shweko pamombe. Saka kurudziro hombe ndeyekuti mumafarms medu tingashayiwa mukana wokugadzira atingati mastandard races nema-restraining facilities anotibatira mombe zvakanaka, but kune nzira dziri nyore dzinogona kugadzirika pafamu kushandisa zvinhu zvakaita mapango atinokwanisa kugadzira anotirerutsira basa rekuti tisadzingirirane nemombe mudanga tichida kudzidhibhisa. Muchaona kuti zvinotibetserei chero mombe dzatinotora kuti dzinopenga, dzimwe nguva dzacho dzinonzi dzinopenga nokuda kwekuti hatisi kunge tichidzidzidzisa kubatwa kwatinoti kuhandlewa kubva dziri diki, nokuti panoda kugadziriswa watingati ushamwari ukama nechipfuyo chako. Saka ukama ihoyo huri nyore kuti achivhike kana ukatanga mombe iri diki. Saka tikange tine ma-restraining facilities, ngatiti mombe yedu yarumurwa paya yakuchiwana zvakati wandei zvokubatwa ungave kudhoza, kunyanya ikoko kuspreya kwedu kwatinenge tichiita, inenge yajaira ende kupinda kwayo ipapo payatanga kupinda iri diki ichibuda naipapo zvinotirerukira ende zvinotibatsiridzira chaizvo kunge tichirwisa makwekwe ari kukonzeresa chirwere chiri kupedza mombe.
We repeat, we have to read instructions by the manufacturer on how to use the product, the frequency of use, and obviously the safety issues mentioned on the label, because you have to make emphasis on the safety to the environment, safety to the user, and the safety to the animal where the product is applied. Where to buy, again, we have to emphasize. We don't just buy everywhere. We have to buy those reputable outlets where we know we will not buy fake products. How do we know that this product is fake and this product is genuine? Fake products, you see, even the name, the trade name may be different from the name of the products we are used to. But what is important to know is these fake products, they will not put physical address where the product is manufactured, or they will not put contact telephone numbers, so that when you have issues, when you have feedback, you have where you know where to call or where to visit. Some fake product, they have physical address like Mumbai, like India, which is not true. These products are manufactured in downtown Harare, the end of Cameroon. On batch coding, we have a system. All manufacturers are registered with Mess and Control Authority. They have a system of batch coding and a sequence of batch numbering these batch codes. Again, on barcodes, fake products, we have barcodes for every pack size on the market, but we, the genuine manufacturers, we have barcodes for each and every pack size of product being sold. So, please, always, cheap things are not always cheap. You buy fake products, you lose your cattle, you lose your hard-earned cash. Please be warned. For us all to win this January disease battle, we have to really know our products, how to use them, whether they are fake or genuine. Thank you so much for taking this advice. As a user or as a farmer, you have a right to sue those outlets or those manufacturers of fake products when you use them, and obviously ticks will not die, they will continue spreading January disease. You sue them for death and for money you would have wasted. Say when you buy a product, we know at Chemblex Agro Pharma, formerly Chemblex Animal and Public Health, we are manufacturing products which are solutions to your problem. We are manufacturing products which are solutions to tick control, which is the main problem that transmits January disease from one animal to the other. In case you buy product and that product will not yield the desired results, what you need to do is to contact us on the numbers on the label, or you physically come to us as the principals or as the manufacturer, or you go to the outlet from where you would have purchased that product. So that is the difference between using a genuine product and a fake product. You have means of feedback, means of communicating should you have encountered problems, or you still have means of communicating or feedback should you be happy with the performance of the product. That's the purpose of physical address as required by authorities and contact numbers as required by authorities on our labels. Please take heed. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for taking that heed.